Sup, nerds? Welcome back to your favorite podcast, Collard Greens and Nerdy Things. I'm King,
And I am JC3.
and today we're talking about the Sony series, their first television show, Spider Noir with Nicolas Cage. And if you like nerdy stuff and you like talking about nerdy stuff, and especially with all the things we have coming up, we've got Supergirl, we've got Spider Man, we've got Doomsday, and so much more. Tap back in with your boys. We're going to be talking about all of us. Give us a like, a follow, a share, a subscribe, all the good things. Even a little bit helps us out, and we would really appreciate it. So, with no further ado, let's jump in the show. And my first question to you today, Jay, is what did you think of the way that Spider Noir looked? And did you watch it in color or did you watch it in black and white?
I thought the show looked amazing. I looked at it in the black and white version. I just thought it was perfect just for the 1930s setting that the show is in. Deep dark colors, but also the way that the show was filmed. It kind of felt like a 30s like type of vibe, 30s type of show. So I thoroughly enjoyed the black and white aspect of it. What did you look at it in?
So I watched it in color. I watched the whole thing in color. I didn't even go back and watch it in black and white like I initially intended to. But what I got to say about that is that even though it was in color, like you said, they've got this 1930s noir detective story going on, got the definitely the cinematography of a noir show. Man, that color, it looks amazing. I mean, super technicolored. The colors are very vibrant, even in kind of a dark toned world. The outfits, the stage presence. I was saying to a friend of ours that if they don't win an Emmy just for stage design, costumes, or cinematography, people are crazy. It was shot incredibly.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that you saw it in color, I'm sure like there might have been some like details in their clothing that you saw that I might not have. Like for example, I did see based off like one scene in an episode where a character, Robbie, has his whole suit on, and based off the black and white version, obviously you see it in black and white, but in color, it's like all like brownish, like kind of like a yeah, like kind of like a brownish, color, like kind of flashy in a way. I would say like it really fit his character.
I would say the same thing about one scene that I can think of in particular is when we first meet Kat Hardy and she's singing in the club. The background with the color, the background, the framing, it was gorgeous. It was absolutely gorgeous. That team did a great job in their cinematography alone and the way that they kind of portrayed this. And it was a cool idea to offer it in black and white and in color and the ability to switch between the two. So people might watch it twice and get double the stream. So good on Sony. I usually don't give Sony props, but good on Sony for what they did. The next question I really had is what do you think of the characters that we got? We know that this is set in a 1930s New York, but it's still going to be Spider-Man and New York in a Marvel universe, but a couple of characters, especially our main character, is a little bit different than we usually see them. What are your thoughts on the characters that are involved?
I love the switch up on characters in the Spider Noir show. Just for the main fact, honestly, that we're not even really able to call him Spider Man in the show. Like he goes by the Spider, just because rights issues. But as far as the character of Spider Noir and Ben Riley, the character that Nicolas Cage plays, I thought he was absolutely fantastic. I love Nicolas Cage as an actor, and seeing his performance here was no different. He was able to act outlandish, but also able to act as a detective in a way that I don't even think we've seen Spider-Man act before. Seeing him work as a detective in this show kind of gave me some Batman vibes too, in a way. So I love Nicolas Cage's character in this. I thought he played a very like outlandish, stern, sometimes wacky version of our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. As far as other characters, we also have Cat in the show, Cat Hardy, who's also a version of Black Cat from the comics. I thought she was a great love interest for Cage in the show, kind of to give him some hope, but at the same time to also remind us, like in every Spider-Man story, there's always tragedy, there's always heartbreak, and there's always betrayal. I also love the characters that we got with the villain being Silvermane. Forget that actor's name at this time, but I've seen him in a lot of stuff, and he's always good at playing a great bad guy, and this is no different. I would say also Ben Riley's, supporting his workers, his co-workers. I would say his team, Robbie and I believe Janet. Yeah, I think their chemistry was pretty good on the show. Very funny moments, especially when there are moments that they're trying to get Nicolas Cage, back on the mend after he's had a long night out. Thought their dynamic was really great in the show as well, and the villains in the show. We had different takes on the characters. We got Sandman. We would usually call this other character Electrode, but in this show they call him Megawatt. Again, rights issues. And we also have Lonnie Lincoln as Tombstone, older version of the character from what we've seen in the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man animated series. But his character, great as well. I thought all the cast was actually pretty solid.
I agree, man. I think the casting was one of the best things they did for the show, especially having Nicolas Cage does a great job of being this noir detective who's kind of grizzled and been around for a while, doesn't really kind of play too much, but also is very funny, but unwittingly. And to have him partnered up with Janet, who did not take any time off of him. She didn't take anything from him. She was going to give it to him just like he gave it to her. Hilarious, hilarious. And of course, me and you watch New Girls, so we're huge fans of Robbie and having that actor in with the team. I think he bounces off of him and gives him a little more grounded earth to the character. Cat, Black Cat, having her be this femme fatale vixen lounge singer was a perfect idea. The actress is beautiful. Silvermane, that crime boss that we all know, but in such a different way in this. His name is Brendan, I think is it Gilson is his last name.
We'll go with that.
He, right, we'll just go with that. He was really good as Silvermane, and like you said, we've got a different version of Sandman than we've seen before, and this was a great portrayal of him, especially the first time they introduced him. Megawatt was a completely new type of character and a different kind of a electro, as we would call him, with being kind of psycho and a bit of an asshole. Loved every bit of that. I think they did a really good job with the character work, and I think the character work really brings it to the next level. One character we didn't get to really get words from, but was insane to see was Man Spider. And that thing looked gross as hell and was disgusting. And I thought that was probably the best way to do a man spider because there's no way that a human spider creature would look anyway kind of cool. It would look disgusting in the real world. So I thought that was really dope. I think they did a good job with the character building and the way that they set these characters up. And the room they gave every one of the actors to really embody those characters. Chef's kiss, man. Chef's kiss. What did you think of the overall story that they were giving us? We started off with a Ben Riley who had stopped being the spider, had almost self-retired himself as the spider, hadn't been a while around for a while. He felt like the city didn't need him anymore. And he's kind of thrust back into action when these people with superpowers start to pop up and people start to question where are these superpowered individuals coming from. So far in that story, we haven't seen anything that would kind of say they're mutants or anything like that. Of course, rights issues, but it was really nice to see the way the story flowed. It was very simple of just trying to figure out how this all happened. Later on, you kind of end up finding out that Ben Riley was there when he was in the military, when all of these people were being experimented on. And from those experiments, later on, they ended up getting powers But in the beginning, nobody knew that that's what was going to happen except for him because he had went through it himself, being bit by the aforementioned man spider. What's your thoughts on the overall story and what they were trying to give and convey to us?
I thought the story was pretty solid. Honestly, we've seen an interpretation of this story before, just with a different Spider-Man. I mean, it kind of brought me back to Spider-Man 2 when Tobey Maguire was trying to give up the mask and just live a normal life. Except with this Spider-Man, he's a bit older, more wary, more tired. And for this character in particular, he really likes to drink. So that's kind of the difference between this show and that movie. But I thought the story was pretty solid. I thought it was a great origin story for Spider the Spider as well. Like you said, seeing that man spider for the first time was horrifying. I can only imagine what it was like for you to see it in color. With me just seeing it in black and white, even that looked ridiculous, crazy. Just seeing the origin of the of his bite, and then seeing the evolution of all these characters, and then just hit and this just that character seeing that the longer that he stays on the sidelines, just the worse things are going to get. Kind of like how it was in the Punisher one-off special. Eventually, the hero has to get up and get to work. But in his case, he's kind of reluctant. He really doesn't want to. You know, like there's even an opportunity in the show where he's able to lose his powers. And I think for the first time ever, we kind of hear this a Spider-Man character say, "With no power comes no responsibility." So I did appreciate that different take on that character. Very cool just to see how he was going to like evolve and see why it was important for him to still have the mask on and keep fighting.
I think you kind of said it all the way correct, man. It reminded me of the Punisher when the hero is realizing that the hero's journey is not at its end and it's just at its beginning. He needs to be something bigger and better for the people around him, the people of New York, just like the Punisher. People need him. The city is actually suffering, even though it seems like it's under control. The spider is somebody who was needed. And in this story, they kind of made him a little more of a beloved character than we usually see Spider-Man. You know, the people tend to like him, and at the end, where they have that big boss fight, people are kind of really rooting for the spider to succeed more than anything else. Where in regular Spider Man, New York can kind of either hate him or they don't hate him. Kind of depends on what Jay Jonah is saying at the time and what Kool Aid they're drinking. But it was nice to see this kind of spin. And it was a rehashing of stories we understand, the hero's journey, but still in a fun way that doesn't feel like you're just retreading an old comic book story or this is just your usual origin story. It explained everybody and explained him at the same time without feeling like we needed to go too far back with all of these flashbacks or it was jarring. What was one of your favorite parts of or funniest parts or anything of the entire series? I'm gonna give mine real quick because I don't want you to take it, and you're notorious for taking my my thoughts first. One of my favorite scenes that I have to say, one of the things that I thought was the funniest was when Ben Riley was drunk and he was wasted, and he tells Janet, "I'm the spider." And then she's like, "Yeah, man, you told me quite a few times." And then we get a flashback of all the times he was, excuse my French, shithoused and ended up telling her that he was the spider, which guys, it was like 6 different times that he has told her when he was trashed that he was the spider, and she's known all along. I thought that was one of the funniest scenes that they added in there. Great moment.
Yes, yes. That's good that that you went first because I was totally going to say that. But I would also say that a funny moment for me would probably have to be just like it was a moment when they were when Ben Riley, Robbie, and his assistant, they're all in the office and they're just kind of getting plans together for the next move, kind of. And you know, Nicolas Cage, he gets up and he's about to head out the door, and he's kind of like, well, all right, that's what we're doing. What are we waiting for? And then, you know, you got his boy Robbie like, You asshole, we're waiting for you. Like I just again, their chemistry, amazing in the show. I would also say another favorite moment of mine is when Kat confirms that Ben Riley is indeed the Spider. Uh, there's a few times in superhero shows where it takes a long, drawn out time for the woman to find out who the hero is, or vice versa. I'm glad that they kind of just put a stamp of approval on it within the first few episodes of her just saying, "Yep, I knew you were the Spider." And just that ending moment with them kissing, I thought it was a pretty beautiful moment. Sucks that she betrayed him afterwards. Still, great moment.
I'll add one more funny moment that I thought was hilarious was towards the apex of the 8th episode when they're in the diner and they end up fighting, and we have Robbie dressed as the Spider, and he's trying so hard. Ben Riley's trying so hard to get his webs to shoot and to get them going, and he just can't get the webs to shoot out. He also has organic webbing, which is black, which I really love that detail. We have not seen that with any other characters, but he was just respectfully, he couldn't get it up, y'all. And that was hilarious. Let's move on to a bit of the speculation nation, which we like to call it on this show. What do you think this will lead into, or what could Sony do or tell more stories out of this world for either a next season or something, a follow up of some sort?
Well, now that Silvermane's gone, we can get a new villain on the board. And I'll just say this, Sony, if we're too scared to use the Green Goblin because we want to use him in other future Spider Man projects, just use Doc Ock, man. Use Doc Ock. Give us a 1930s version of Doc Ock. I think we can get some pretty great stories with that.
Man, you took that out of my mouth, man. I think that would be dope to see how Doc Ock would make his arms and how the technology would it look a little steampunky? How would they use it? Excuse me, in the 1930s. And you also could do Adrian Toomes the Vulture. Remember in Into the Spider Verse, we saw that like Da Vinci vulture that kind of flew in the second movie. I would love to see somebody have a 1930s vulture outfit and maybe even a Green Goblin. Is there a Norman Osborn in their world who's running big business and maybe hasn't got his powers? And but how would they depict his glider? That would be so interesting to see. There is a lot of options they can take to move this story forward since they left it on such a nice little bow and everything was kind of back to what somewhat of a status quo. They can take so many different characters, and this is Sony, so they have the rights to most, and not if not all, of the Spider-Man characters and properties. Could they do something as crazy as a Venom? And what would that look like? A 1930s noir Venom or Carnage story. I think that would be insane.
I think that would be great. My other question is, would they be able to pull it off? We know that history with Venom and Carnage, man. So we would just have to keep our fingers crossed. But no, I wholeheartedly agree with you, King. Like this show, like has the potential to generate, honestly, not just more seasons, but potentially more spinoffs. We this show kind of reminds you that we do have a Spider Verse, and even though this version of Spider Noir wasn't the version that we saw in Into the Spider Verse, still a great concept and idea because we can get more versions of Spider-Man. We already have this version. We have the Miles Morales version. We can get, for all we know, we can get, Peter Porker. I know there's a, section of fans that might want to animate a show with that. Not saying I'm one of them, but just saying, the possibilities are endless.
I think that is the brilliance of it is get some of those characters that you brought to life in the Miles Morales Across the Spider-Verse universe and make their own individual series out of them within their own styles, whether it be animation or live action. I think that's a real brilliant way to go with it. And I hope Sony's paying attention because this is the first live action Sony project that was actually good. Most of the movies, almost all 99.9% of the movies have been absolute garbage. So hopefully they learn their lesson in what they did in this TV show and can give us something like that or something better. But let's take it home. I'm going to do my final thoughts, and then I'm going to let Jay, like he always does, do his final thoughts and take us on home. Honestly, I think this is one of the best Spider-Man or better Spider-Man depictions we have seen in live action or on screen. It's a really fun show. It really takes advantage of the 1930s detective noir story while still being funny, engaging, and still not know exactly where you're going until the end. For me, this is a pretty high. I would give it an 8.5. I think it's a really good show. I would suggest multiple people to see it. I really enjoyed it in color, and anybody who hasn't seen it in color, like I said earlier in the pod, they did a really good job with the cinematography and their colors. So I suggest anybody who's a Spider-Man fan to add this to their list if they haven't already watched it yet.
My man King. And you know what? I gotta second you there, man. I gotta give this show an 8.5 out of 10 myself. I thought it was great. Really, only thing that was missing for me was we didn't get in the Rubik's Cube. You know what I mean? Like I just wanted to see that a Rubik's Cube, man. Like just one time. You know, that might have got a perfect grade for me. But other than that, thought the show was great. Thought the cast was great. Again, big Nicolas Cage fan. Love seeing him go to work, and you could just tell that he was having a great time and with this character. And I hope that we see him in future installments of the show. This made me excited for Spider-Man Brand New Day, or even more excited for Spider-Man Brand New Day. This made me want to look at Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. This made me want to just keep looking at all like the previous Spider-Man movies because that's how good this show is. So please, guys, look at it in black and white. I'm gonna rewatch it in color and just enjoy a different take on our friendly neighborhood of Spider-Man. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for liking. Please comment and share. Until next time, and as always, stay nerdy, my friends.